all for tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop. Me, your host, Daryl D. Lane. As always, I want to thank you all for tuning in, whether it be via Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iRadio, SoundCloud, or whichever podcasting app you may be listening to me, where I get to talk about everything that I don't normally get a chance to talk about in my regular podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk. Just gave you all the platforms you can find me on. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I have a link below to one of the little bits of the podcast that I did with my guy Kenny yesterday, and it was with the Bills. What's kind of wrong with the offense? So, got a lot of stuff to talk about. First, people said to start the NFL season that Lamar Jackson could be figured out. And what did we see? We saw this guy rush for like 16 times, had over 100 yards. The Baltimore Ravens have the number one rushing attack in all of football. They have it by a decent margin. And also what's very interesting about this whole thing is they've led the NFL in rushing the last few years. We all know what Lamar does. We all know this read option, college type of system Baltimore runs on offense. And you know why people can't stop it? Because you haven't seen a quarterback who can run 4-3 or 4-2, whatever Lamar runs, has that twitchiness, explosiveness. And Baltimore has a great offensive line. They pull, and Lamar's change of direction, the speed, the acceleration is just something that you can't game plan for, you can't prepare for, and it just makes him special. So it's a lot easy to deduce something and say it's simplistic, right? Like everybody can say LeBron James, right? All he does is drive to the rim. Well, yes, and that's very simplistic, but saying that and then stopping LeBron from driving to said rim, whole different conversation altogether. So next up, the Bills being figured out. Speaking of being figured out, I still wonder about the Buffalo Bills on the offensive side of the football. I have been concerned about them this whole year. I think the offense has been slow. It's been lackluster. I thought the way they played against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday was kind of pitiful, even though they ended up winning 35-0. I think that, and what's the right word to use? Miami played awful. They had multiple turnovers, multiple failed fourth down attempts, yet the game was like 14-0 heading into halftime. That's just unacceptable. They should have been blowing the doors off of Miami. The offense just does not look at the same level. Josh looks like he's reading things a little bit slower. The offensive line played a lot better against the Dolphins than they did against the Steelers. Singletary had a good game, which I was happy to see that. But here's the thing. The Bills' defense, it seems like it's going to be really good. Top 5, top 10, right, in the NFL in terms of defense. So maybe they're going to go back to how they played the last few years, get the running game going, and then just have Josh take a couple shots. I think maybe that's what the Bills might end up having to do. Have these close games, run the ball, grind it out. You still have Josh. You can still make throws. You can still make spectacular plays, and you kind of wait till that offense gets in sync. So now QB injuries. Tua Tagovailoa is day-to-day with his rib injury per Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. Tua didn't get a chance to play in the game really against the Bills. A little disappointed for that and him. Jacoby Brissett got to play, and Jacoby Brissett not very good. Now with Tua, he's been injured his whole career at Alabama. Was always hurt, was always dinged up, and it seems like nothing's changed in the NFL, and his play isn't super spectacular. So I think this is not a good sign for Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. David Culley announced that Houston Texans QB Deshaun Watson won't be active for Thursday night. Tyrod Taylor is day-to-day and is getting an MRI. I think this is the wrong decision by David Culley. If I'm David Culley, I'm playing Deshaun Watson. Houston has been more competitive than I think most people thought at this point of the year. And I think it's really hard to look at all those men in the locker room. They're busting their butts off. And the team's fairly competitive. The AFC South is bad, right? The Colts aren't that great. The Jaguars are an abomination. And the Titans are suspect. So if Deshaun's playing, maybe they have a chance to win, especially if Tyrod Taylor is not playing. We know David Mills is the guy. David Mills sucks. We saw that against the Cleveland Browns. So I think what you do is you play him. You put the onus on the NFL with all the allegations that's going on, that's swirling around, right, to suspend him indefinitely. That's what you do. Put him on the commissioner's exempt list. That's what you do. You put the onus on the NFL. If they let him play, then he plays, and that increases your chance to win. If he doesn't, then fine. See you, wouldn't want to be you. He wasn't part of the team really anyway, and plus, he's on the roster. He's just not activated, which is wasting a roster spot as well, which people don't realize that you're just wasting a roster spot. He can still get paid, still get his money, do all that on the commissioner's exempt list. So that's what I'd be thinking of right now if I am the Houston Texans. And Indianapolis Colts QB Carson Wentz sprains both his ankles, Frank Wright says. I think this could potentially be a little more serious than people are letting on. Carson Wentz did not come back into the game when it happened. This happened late fourth quarter with the game in the balance against the LA Rams. The fact that Wentz did not come back in, it tells me something's wrong, because when the game's in the balance like that, a player's going to be like, screw it, F it, I'm going back in. The fact that he didn't shows that maybe this injury could be a lot more serious than we think at the moment. So awful rookie QB management 101. This has been going on the last few weeks, and it came to a head in week 2. So you have the Bears head coach, Matt Nagy. He says that Andy Dalton's still the starter, even though he got hurt. Justin Fields is then a lot of people want Justin Fields, particularly the Chicago Bears fans. Idiotic. Why are you doing that to Justin? Start the Justin Fields era. It's exciting. He's a good runner of the football, and it gives your offense some more dynamic ability. I don't understand it. To me, it's idiotic. Give this guy the first team reps, because he is your future. Also, another dud. Trey Lance didn't play a single snap against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch of the San Francisco 49ers drafted a guy with the 3rd pick of the NFL draft. They moved up, got rid of all this draft capital to not play him at all. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. He's just sitting there collecting dust. They're not even using him as a Taysom Hill role. And you want to know why? Because I don't think maybe he's as good of a runner as people think he is. He's a good runner, but maybe not that Taysom Hill type of runner, or a Justin Fields where he has that physical ability that just leaps off, where he can just break all these tackles and do all this crazy stuff. And you also want to play quarterback. You don't want him playing tight end. You don't want him playing H-back and doing all this different stuff. He's a guy that wasn't throwing it a lot anyway in college at North Dakota State, so you kind of want him to develop. So the fact that he's just sitting on, he's not getting any better. It doesn't seem like he's good enough to beat Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo's all that great. Bad news bears in San Francisco. Trevor Lawrence continues to throw passes than they are rushing, which is awful balance. The offensive line is not great. It's causing Trevor to get hit. He's having a lot of errant throws, throwing a lot of interceptions. He like under 50% of his passes, like just awful. Jacksonville, Urban Meyer, the coaching, not doing anything to help Trevor Lawrence. And then we get to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson went 4-4 in a bad way. I'm going to do 4-4 for college football in a minute, but 4-4 in a bad way. 4 picks, 4 sacks. That is not great. You got to run the ball more. Maybe in a game like that, when you're up against Belichick, the New England Patriots have a great secondary. The Patriots are really smart. They're good with tells. They're good with scouting. So maybe just run the ball the whole time. Don't let Zach Wilson lose the game. That's kind of what he did. Got away from him. Is doing crazy throws and getting a lot of intercept dudes like Devin McCourty and J.C. Jackson, who can see the ball and pick the ball and have good ball skills for defensive backs. And Mac Jones, Patriots, who knew? The team that's managed their QB the best, that is actually starting. Got rid of him so he could play. 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but learning how to manage the game and learning how to win football games. Props to the New England Patriots. So best 2-0 teams in the NFL. Number 1, I have the 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, defending champions. 2, I have the LA Rams. Stafford and McVay have looked really good together. I love the throws, how he's extending this offense, and he's making Cooper Kupp a fantasy superstar, by the way, folks. Pick up Cooper Kupp if you don't have him, or try to trade for him. 2-0. Next, at 3, Cardinals. The Cardinals have been very good. I think Kyler Murray's trying to make a statement that he could be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. The gaudy numbers he's putting up is insane. And with Rondell Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, in this explosive offense they have, they're going to be an issue. At number 4, I have the 2-0 Carolina Panthers. Really good defense. Sam Darnold is coming along. They have so many weapons like Christian McCaffrey or Robbie Anderson, to the point where when we're looking at this Carolina Panthers team, they have one of maybe 10 best rosters in the NFL, a really good roster, and they're going to be an issue. And they destroyed the New Orleans Saints. They destroyed them. A Saints team that destroyed the Green Bay Packers, and that Panthers team just went up and said, we're going to physically beat you down. Next, 5th, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr's been playing really well. Hey, I've doubted Gruden a lot, but Gruden's getting it done. 2-0. They beat the Steelers. They beat the Ravens in close games, learning how to win and close out games. I have the San Francisco 49ers. I'm still concerned about what's going on with Trey Lance. It troubles me, but Jimmy Garoppolo not playing well. Kyle Shanahan has to dial up 10 different screen passes for 7 points. It's insane. Doesn't seem like he can use the offense to its max ability, similarly to how McVay think Goff used the Rams offense to their maximum ability. But still great defense, good coaching, solid quarterback play. Not the quarterback play I would like or even Kyle Shanahan would like. It's still kind of good enough. And then last place, you have the Denver 2-0. Teddy Bridgewater really playing well. And this Denver Broncos defense is really, really good. It's going to be interesting to see how they look against an offense like the Chiefs or the Chargers, who both have two very special quarterbacks. And now we have the Packers versus Lions Monday Night Football. I'm going to go with the Packers. I think we're going to see at least 10-point win, right? I think the Packers are going to make a statement. I think if the Packers, they want to win a Super Bowl this year, you got to block the Lions. The Lions can't be competitive with you. If the Lions are competitive, or worst case scenario, they even win, you go down 0-2. I think this shows things are a lot worse in Green Bay that you and me know. I think that is really bad for the Packers. It's bad for Aaron Rodgers. Expect the Packers to come out and just dominate this football game. Next, Alabama. So Alabama won 31-29 at the Swamp against the Florida Gators, and I was really impressed. And I was thinking about this also. Nick Saban on the NFL Network, he had a football life documentary, whatever you want to call it, come out. And I was thinking about Nick Saban, what makes him in Alabama so special. They never have a down year. They're always good. They're always productive. And I just want to look at the other powers in college football, right? Georgia. Georgia's only made it to the playoffs once. There's years they haven't even won their own division. Then you look at Ohio State. Ohio State right now stays confused, doesn't know what to do. They're struggling with their new quarterback, C.J. Stroud. The defense has been off. They've had close games with teams like Minnesota, and I forget the Tulane or Tulsa, one of those teams. And lost to Oregon at home. This is just stuff that you don't see from Alabama. You don't see Alabama losing. They usually get for one loss, right? One loss, never two. They usually blow out everybody. And then you look at a team like Clemson. We always talk about Dabo. Can he be the next Nick Saban? The new quarterback, DJ Angeloga, or I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, but they're having competitive games with Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is not super talented in the grand scheme of college football. So I think that shows that there's some issues going on with Clemson. So Alabama, always consistent, always dominant, never a down year. They just keep reloading and reloading and reloading. And lastly, my college football first four in, last four out. Number one, Alabama, that needs no introduction. They keep their top spot. A very tough win on the road against the Florida Gators. And it was a game that they were up double digits, then Florida kind of came back into the game. But you have a young quarterback that's expected. Really good road win in the SEC. Number two, I have Georgia. Still the best defense in all of college football, dispatched of South Carolina. Number three, I'm going to go with Oregon. At three, they blew out. I forget who they played like Stony Brook. They played like a group of five team and just absolutely shellaxed them. At number four, my friend Ben here and his Texas A&M Aggies, they were really good with their backup QB, so that inspires some more faith. I'm going to have A&M at four. At number five, I'm going to have Oklahoma. Pretty close game. It was 30-16, right? With the Oklahoma Sooners, not with really what you would expect from a team that was ranked number 2 in the country to begin the football season. But I'm going to still have Oklahoma there at 5. At number 6, I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bearcats, who I have a bunch of faith in. They beat Indiana. They're going to play Notre Dame in South Bend. True road game. We're going to see what they're really made of, and they have a chance to really climb up this list. I have them at 6. At number 7, I have Ohio State. Listen, folks, Ohio State has a loss. Cincinnati doesn't. And also people might say, oh, they lost to Oregon. Well, that's fine. Indiana played a Big Ten team, and they dispatched them, while Ohio State's had those games with Minnesota and Tulane. So Cincinnati deserves to be ahead of Ohio State right now. Ohio State is at number 7. And at number 8, I'm going with Clemson. Just barely getting it done against Georgia Tech. That does not do it for me. I think there's some things going on. The fact that their offense can't get it together, Dabo's going to have to figure that out. They're going to figure that out, and I'm sure they will, because the ACC kind of sucks. And that's all we have for this edition of Outside the Shop. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. So check out the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Have a great day, everybody, and God bless.